10 valuable tools that I don't see in a ton of toolboxes. Let's get it. Tool number 1. So a lot of you guys have these inspection mirrors in your box. This is not the tool that I'm going to be featuring today, but a lot of you guys have these in your boxes, and it's really cool. You know, they're telescoping, heads move around. These are cool, but I did a toolbox tour with Mike. He's the owner of Dead Air Silencers. Huge box, and I saw these in his box. What is that? Well,
mechanical fingers?
Yeah, and then with the mirror? What is the...
Mirrors?
What?
You've never used those?
I've never even seen that before.
Dude.
Now, I don't know how I went so long with not having known about these, but these are inspection mirrors, and there's a trigger at the end that makes it so you can articulate this to whatever angle you want. So like say you're going in between runners or something, you can push it, fish it down, and then just kind of move it around and look at what you want to look at. Whereas like something like this, where you're like telescoping and you put it in the runner, you're like, oh, I can't see anything. So you take it back out and then you move it around, put it back in. And it's kind of tough because sometimes you're not able to get the angle you need and then fish it down in there. So like if you need this angle, you can't really fish 90 degrees in there. Whereas with this, it's really freaking cool. You just put it in there, move it 90 degrees, and it's lockable. So if you need that angle and you want to lock it, there's this locking tab right here that locks it. And yeah, pretty awesome tool. The ones in Mike's box were made by Blue Point. Now these are made in USA, so this might be the same company that makes them for Blue Point. I'm not sure, but they make a couple different sizes. I think they make one bigger than this and one smaller than this, but awesome tool. So that's number 1. Tool number 2, I did a toolbox tour. A guy named Chris showed me his boxes. Basically when this channel first started, he was a power sports mechanic, and he showed me this tool.
There's your bits. Right here is your carburetor adjusting tool.
It is a tool by Motion Pro, and it's basically for adjusting carburetors. It's really cool. It's long. It's like, I don't know, 20 inches. And basically, you turn the end of this knob, or this handle, and this side turns. So it's kind of like a hypoid gear setup, and it translates that into like a 90-degree motion. And then you have 90 degrees of motion in a really compact area. And so this is fantastic for like dash work, or like let's say if you're trying to take out a blower motor or something, you take out those screws, or just about any other dash work. This is fantastic. There is a downfall with this tool though. This comes with a handful of proprietary bits. Now these bits have a little detent, a little ball detent on the end that secures them to this, because there's nothing really holding the bits in other than this little ball detent. So if you get a bit like this, say if you're going to try to use a long Phillips to get into some of those tricky spots for those Phillips head screwdrivers under dash work type of stuff, if you put this in there, it'll fit, but it'll just fall right out because there's nothing holding it in. Now with these proprietary bits, this will snap in and it'll give you a 1/4 inch drive, but typically, I mean, I guess you could have some smaller bolt heads that you can use with this, which is really awesome. You just put like an extension on it or whatever. But if you wanted to use something, let's say like this, you could, there's an adapter you can buy. It's like $6, and it adapts this 1/4 inch into a hex that actually retains these, and this won't fall out at that point. So basically you buy this tool, and then you can buy the adapter for $6, and then you can put any hex bit you want in it. Now, when you do buy this, it comes with the end that moves, right? And because this is made for adjusting carburetors, it has these little notches on the end, and basically when you turn it, it's like a notch. And every time you hit one of these marks, it clicks, basically. I didn't care for that much. It's basically there so that you know how much you're adjusting the carburetor, and so it's not going to just like free spin like that. I took that ball detent out completely. All you do is just take that set screw out right there, and then the ball just falls out, and it's just a little spring. When the tool gets to you, there's instructions that actually tell you can do that if you want. But basically now it just free spins, and it's really cool because now you can get into some really, really tight spots. Now, while this is an awesome tool, it is a little pricey. They do have lower cost options out there, kind of just generic brand tools on Amazon. I haven't used those, so I can't speak for them, but they look similar and they do similar things, and they come with different size bits as well. But yeah, I'll leave that link in the description as well. So yeah, some options for you guys. Numero Trace. Now, if you didn't think I was good looking before, how about now? How about now? How about now? How about now? Now, this is a headband that I saw in Braden's box. This light
I cannot live without.
I bought this set, and I honestly, I couldn't believe that these are, so it's 20 bucks for 2 of these. So you get 2 of these in a pack for 20 bucks, right? That's 10 bucks a piece for this headband. And the output that they offer is fantastic. There's a headband LED that goes around the front, and then you push the button, and then it goes to the side. And also, like, if your shop is just ginormous and you're trying to get in touch with the service manager and you don't know how else to do it, you could just be like, hey, and then you have your strobe SOS light, I guess, like if you're under a car and you're dying or something. But honestly, these, for the money, you really can't beat these. They are waterproof and they are USB rechargeable. Now these also have a cool mode on the side that I wasn't aware of. I thought they were just broken, but apparently you can push this button right here, and then, no, wrong button. Push this button, right? And it turns on and off with the motion of your hand, which is really kind of neat because say like you're under a car and you got greasy hands or whatever, you need to go talk to your service manager or whatever. You don't want this like blaring in his face. Like it doesn't look that bright on the screen, but this is incredibly bright. Same thing with like this spotlight or whatever. And it's just really convenient. You just wave your hand and then it turns on and off. It's kind of crazy. 20 bucks for 2. We can't beat it. Number 4, we got this Milwaukee impact driver. Now this is not number 4, but I do want to talk about this for a quick second. So these impact drivers, you know, they have a hex adapter, so you can put just about any bit inside that you can fit. So this just has like a screwdriver attachment. Now I've seen these in just about every toolbox. Now this is the M18 version. They have the M12 version. Both of these carry a huge punch, but sometimes you want to be a little more gentle and have a little finesse with screws. I did a toolbox tour with Jesse a while back, and he had this in his box.
And then I have my vessel screwdriver, which I use mostly for taking like modules and stuff apart.
This is a vessel electric screwdriver. Freaking cool. Look at that. Forward and backwards. There's a little LED light on the front, and it's just a hex bit attachment screwdriver. It's got an awesome ball grip on the end. This is made in Japan. So this is micro USB rechargeable on the side here, and just a fantastic tool. So this only delivers up to just under 18 inch-pounds of torque, which is perfect when you're putting together like a switch or maybe a module of some sort, and you don't want to have a whole bunch of torque on that. So like something like this, it's really difficult to use and still not over torque stuff, especially small screws or something like that you're drilling into plastic. Whereas something like this, you can still have the speed of something like this, you know, but it just won't deliver all the torque that this would. Now this can be used to manual tighten or loosen, so like you can just break it loose and then unscrew it all the way, or you can screw it in most of the way and then you can manually tighten the rest of the way if that's what you want to do. Fantastic tool, and yeah, I'm glad I picked it up. Tool number 5. Now this is a tool that wasn't in anybody's box. This is just something that I had, and so I wanted to show you guys. It's called a power bar. If you guys haven't seen this before, it's basically this long bar, right? And it has this swivel end, and you can put a socket on here. This is a 1/2 inch drive, and so you can put a socket there, and then this side, you just strike it with a hammer. It has a little protector sleeve on the top, but basically, if you're ever in a situation where, say like you're working on a Subaru or any type of longitudinal motor where you have the crank in the front, the crank bolt, you're trying to get it out, and you're trying to sneak in something like this, you know, some low profile impact to get the crank bolt out. Sometimes this is just not quite shallow enough, and so you end up having to remove the radiator and condenser to get more room and more access to the front. Whereas something like this is awesome because you can get in there. This is so low profile, this can fit anywhere. And the amount of time it would save you by just throwing a socket on the end here and then just pounding it on the top a few times to loosen that crank. Definitely worth it. Time saver, and yeah, something that I just want to show you guys that I haven't seen in other toolboxes. Maybe it could be in yours. Tool number 6 is a tool that I'm really excited about because it's one of my favorite tools. And surprisingly, I don't see this tool in a lot of toolboxes. If you guys do any amount of drivability or diagnostic work on gas motors, I highly recommend this tool. It's called a fuel injector tester. It's made by OTC, and it's a little package, but it's very powerful. So basically, if you haven't seen this before, what you got is leads to go up to your battery. and then you have another lead that goes up to an injector. And the way this works is you hook up your fuel pressure gauge up to the fuel rail, right? And then you'll prime the motor. You'll prime the fuel pump with the engine off, and you'll gain pressure, right? And this little control box has different settings on it. You can do 1 pulse, 50 pulses, or 100 pulses. I usually do 50 pulses. And this trigger will fire that injector that you have this up to a predetermined number of times for a certain amount of time, right? So this gives 50 pulses at 10 milliseconds each. And that will cause this fuel injector to fire. And what that does is you'll see this pressure drop a certain amount. And so you'll test all 4 of those fuel injectors. Say I'm working on a 4-cylinder. You'll test all 4 fuel injectors, and you'll watch the amount of pressure drop on each of those fuel injectors. If one fuel injector is dropping 10 psi and the rest of them are dropping 20 psi, you know that the one that's only dropping 10 psi is a problem, and that's what you need to look into. It's such a great tool and very handy to have, and it will point you in the right direction when you're dealing with drivability problems and you're suspecting a problem with a fuel injector. So now, a quick word of caution: when you're going from injector to injector, you'll want to reprime the fuel pump to get it back to base pressure before you test it again, test the next injector. What you don't want to do is stay on the same injector and test it twice or 3 times or whatever you want, unless you crank the motor over between the tests, because this is throwing raw fuel into your cylinders, and there's a chance you can hydrolock that motor. So don't do that. Tool number 7. I think we're on number 7. These are ball joint nut air hammer nuts. So this is a set of 4. These are made by CTA. I think there's another set where they offer 6 nuts, but basically you can thread these on, say like if you're removing a tie rod, you remove the nut, and then you got to somehow get the tie rod out of the knuckle. You can thread these onto the end of the tie rod, outer tie rod, and then you can just use an air hammer and hit right in the middle of that nut, and then it will push that tie rod out of the knuckle. You can do the same thing with ball joints. These come in handy when you have a knuckle or a control arm that's made out of aluminum, and you can't really use a hammer to bash into like the side of it to get it to pop out, because it'll just damage the aluminum. I've seen aluminum control arms crack. Same thing with knuckles. So, or deform it really, really badly. So these can be a lifesaver. Also, if you're going to reuse the component, you can throw these on there and air hammer them out safely. Whereas like a ball joint remover or like a tie rod end, you can use those tools. A lot of times they destroy either the boot or the component itself. It'll damage the threads on it. So this is just kind of a safe way of removing them. You can also remove wheel studs with these. If you have a reason to remove wheel studs and you don't want to mess them up, typically you can just get a hammer and just whack them. But if you're trying to save the wheel studs, you can thread these on and then hit them in the middle with an air hammer. So same concept, but yeah, good tools. This next tool is one that I bought recently, so I haven't really used it much, but it's just such a cool concept that I decided to pick it up. And it could be something that would be really fitting for some toolboxes. It's this hammer. And I know this looks kind of silly. It's made by Capri, and it's basically a soft face hammer. You can see how soft it is. I can push on the center here. And basically this mimics like your hand, like striking something with your hand. So for people that do a lot of interior body panels, like if you have to do a recall and you have to rip out the entire interior of the car, hitting the panels back in with your hand, this makes it so much easier, and keeps all the abuse onto the hammer rather than your hand. It's also more equal force than your hand when doing that, and it's not going to stress pieces of interior panel to the point where they're going to crack like a regular mallet would. This just kind of absorbs the impact and then just kind of pushes down on the part that you're trying to install. Really awesome tool. Like I said, I just picked this up recently and haven't really used it much, but I couldn't resist. It's kind of a cool concept. Tool number 9 here. I think this is 9. This is the Gear Wrench oil pressure test kit. This is a really cool idea that Gear Wrench put together. Basically, if you ever need to test oil pressure on a vehicle, I did it upside down, dang it. Basically, if you're ever testing oil pressure on a vehicle, and back in the day, most of the time you would just hook up straight to where your oil pressure sending unit is. And that's okay. But a lot of times it's kind of buried and not very easily accessible, whereas oil filters are typically always very service friendly. This kit lets you plug into right where the oil filter is. And so it has, has instructions for mounting to different vehicles, different adapters. So it has 5 different adapters to feed right into where the oil filter would screw into. And then this is the guy that sandwiches right to where the oil filter was. And then you just plug your pressure gauge right up to here, and then it gives you oil pressure right there on the gauge. Fantastic. And it's way more convenient, like I said, than pulling out the oil sending unit. Like I said, because sometimes it's really difficult. This kit is designed for both domestic and import vehicles, which is really cool. And it does have a few different diagrams for, different makes and models. One thing about this kit is that if you have like a cartridge type filter, there's no real way of getting into that system to test, because this is not going to go over like a cartridge type oil filter, so you won't be able to use it on a car like that. But this does cover a lot of vehicles, and it's definitely something worth having in your box. And the amount of time that it saves you from having to remove a sending unit just to test the oil pressure, definitely worth having. Tool number 10. Thanks for sticking it out with me, guys. I also have one more bonus tool after this one. But I saw a tool similar to this one.
I put a rag and then just kind of stuff it in there, soak up, and then clean up. And, it's all about cleanliness. So.
But his, the one I saw in his box is basically like locking pliers. So what I picked up was a little bit different. What he used them for was basically stuffing in paper towels and stuff underneath oil filters to catch any oil that would, seep down past it, which is a fantastic idea. And I think I'll pick up a set of those as well. But this is a tool that I wanted to show you guys. This is a tool called Forceps, right? But these are made for basically the medical industry, for fishing stuff out of like a nose of a toddler or ears or something. Look at this. See how small this little shaft is? And you can open up the front here. Look at that. Isn't that cool? So if you ever drop something like into an area where you can't get it, it's like you drop like a little screw or something or a bolt into a tiny area, like this could fish all the way through like the inside of like a spark plug hole or something and fish out something, right? If you drop something. I know they make tools like this, where you can just kind of fish out stuff, but if you need something with a little more dexterity, more precision, this is definitely the way to go, because they don't open up like pliers. They just open up on the very tip, which is so awesome. And they make a 12-inch version of this, which is, 3 inches more than this, or more, 4 inches more. And I should have gotten that version, because I think 8 inches might be a little bit limiting, but this is nonetheless such a cool tool. But I got this idea from that toolbox store, which is really cool. So yeah, check these out. Okay, last tool, or I got a couple last tools. As far as I know, Milwaukee does not sell a glue gun for any of their batteries, M12 or M18, and I think they should, because they have other brands, off brands, that are capitalizing on that market. And I have one here. It's called Melif, and I've used this a ton. Like I said, this is off-brand, but it accepts the M18 battery, which is awesome, and it lasts a long time. And this particular glue gun comes with a bunch of glue sticks with the pack, so you're good there. And this has worked so awesome for me, not being corded to a wall with a traditional glue gun. I don't know how much you guys need glue guns, but I find myself using this all the time, whether it's around the house or on other projects. There are other aftermarket, I guess, quote unquote, aftermarket brands that also have a blower, like a little blower gun for, not like a leaf blower, but like a little blower gun for the Milwaukee batteries. I saw that in Tomas's box.
Air gun.
I know those little blower guns don't really produce a lot of, I know it's not like a compressor air gun or something like that, but it's just enough to get like stuff like dirt or whatever, if you have a bunch of dirt all over you, or if you're trying to clean off sawdust from a saw or something like that. Having that convenience of being cordless is so nice. And I really hope that Milwaukee will take advantage of that market. Well, that is it, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I really want to start implementing small episodes like this into my channel, because some of the toolbox tours are like 40 minutes, somewhere like an hour and a half. A lot of people don't have time to sit and watch the whole episode, so they'll like skip ahead, and sometimes they miss some really awesome tools like these. So hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have some tools that you think are really awesome and maybe a lot of people don't know about them, drop a comment. That way when people visit this video, they can go down in the comments and see for themselves. And I'm sure there's a lot of other tools out there that haven't really made it onto the channel that are really valuable. But also, if you have a toolbox that you would like to have featured on this channel, you can drop me a line on Instagram, or you can send me an email. Yeah, till the next one, we'll see you. This comes in handy when you have a knuckle or a ball joint, a knuckle or a tire, a knuckle or a. This comes in handy when you have.